Okay, my topic is on environmental education, okay, for sustainable development. UNESCO believes that environmental education is our way of implementing the goals of environmental protection. We have to acknowledge that we are actually facing a lot of environmental problems like climate change or the different types of pollution. So one of the ways on how we could be able to address those problems is through educating the young minds. Okay, so our objectives for this talk, okay, are to present some or have at least a review of those environmental problems, okay, and other related issues, okay, at present, and discuss the role of environmental education in attaining sustainable development. So we only have two objectives, okay, to satisfy, okay, this afternoon, okay, at least during my time. We are going to start with discussing, of course, okay, some environmental problems like global warming or climate change, okay, impacts of air, water pollution, not to mention, of course, land pollution, the role of environmental education in attaining sustainability, or the importance of mainstreaming environmental education into our curriculum, okay, both in the basic education or even in the higher education, okay, through promoting behavioral change, based on ethical and moral philosophies. Okay, so basically aware tayo okay, that there is really a problem when it comes to the quality, okay, of our environment. And I could say that one of the major concerns or environmental concerns, okay, nowadays actually is global warming or climate change. We know, okay, that climate change actually is caused by the increasing concentrations of greenhouse gases. Okay, ang pinaka-major na greenhouse gas, okay, that actually is related to climate change or global warming is carbon dioxide. So historically, since nag-start ang Industrial Revolution, okay, alam natin na continuously, okay, nag-increase ang concentration ng CO2 levels natin sa atmosphere, okay, by more than 100%. Okay, I want to focus on some of those impacts, ng climate change, at least sa ating experience, okay, sa ating bansa, So there is rising sea level, which is very, very evident nowadays. Drought and fire in some areas, okay, while stronger typhoons actually are experienced, okay, in the other parts of the country or even the other parts of the world, landslides actually also are very, very evident, okay, mas lalo na dito sa ating region at least. So you can actually also give me, of course, okay, other impacts, okay, of climate change that you basically know, Related din syempre yung mga spread of certain diseases, okay, to this problem, okay. There's one study that I've read correlating, for example, dengue, the epidemiology of dengue, okay, to, of course, the occurrence of climate change, specifically on the behavior of the mosquito, okay, which actually is the one carrying, of course, the virus, okay, from one person to another. Okay, insect infestation also is very, very evident, affecting, of course, our agricultural system, okay, which will later on may have an impact to our economic development. Okay, coral bleaching is there, okay, and also is related to a lot of economic issues. Okay, aside from climate change or global warming, okay, we are also faced with this problem, Bata pa lang ako talagang aware na ako, okay, that we are actually facing, okay, this pollution sa air, okay, sa land, okay, or even sa tubig. In the Philippines, at least, no, aside from our basic efforts to address these kinds of problems, sa level ng policy making, no, we have different laws, no, accompanying our efforts to at least try to solve these problems. Like, for example, about air pollution, meron tayong RA 8749, the Philippine Clean Air Act, for example. Meron din tayong RA 9275, that is your Philippine Clean Water Act, for example, no? Amongst other environmental laws in at least our country. Okay, recognizing the fact that there is a need for us really to come up with actions to address all these things in a very integrated and employing participatory approach sa lahat ng members ng ating community in all aspects and in all areas, because we have to acknowledge that this problem, specifically air pollution, causes a lot of diseases, no? It affects, of course, people, in the country and in the world, and are associated with other environmental problems also, like global warming, acid rain, eutrophication. It also has an effect on wildlife and biodiversity, and of course, depletion of the ozone layer. Lalo na sa air pollution, COPDs, or chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, really are evident, in our community. A lot of us actually are experiencing, respiratory diseases because of a very poor quality of our air. Nandiyan din ang problema natin sa water pollution. So gaya na nabanggit ko kanina, we have this in the Philippines RA 9275, the Philippine Clean Water Act, na pwede nating gamitin as our guide to somehow solve our problem on water pollution. So we also have to recognize that water pollution actually also affects other aspects of our environment, like it may lead to biodiversity loss or biodiversity destruction. It may also somehow have an effect on the food chain or the food web, Most likely, pagka mga halimbawa heavy metals yung mga yan, yung mga chemical pollutants natin sa tubig. Heavy metals, as we all know, are bioaccumulators, meaning that their concentration increases in the food chain or the food web, and ultimately yung tao ang maapektuhan because of that problem sa ating water quality. That is also lack of potable water, Ngayon, noon, na-experience pa natin na pwede natin inumin even the municipal water, or pwede tayong uminom kahit directly from the stream or possibly the river, Pero ngayon, we have to think twice, directly consuming all those water sources, kasi there might be contamination, Fecal contamination might be there, chemical contamination might be there, which ultimately may have an impact on our health, Ang daming mga bata na naapektuhan also because of these problems, and of course other diseases. If you're familiar with Minamata disease, for example, actually is caused by mercury exposure to mercury. Pwede sa tubig, pwede rin sa air. And most likely, ang naapektuhan dito ay pregnant women and of course, infants. Let me somehow localize, of course, the context of my presentation. In the city of Baguio, if I may use Baguio City as our example, kung meron man dalawang pinaka-importanteng environmental problems that are actually experienced by us in the city, these are air pollution, of course, poor air quality, and our problem on solid waste. So, yun yung mga problema that we need to somehow acknowledge first and foremost and do something about them. Yun. So aside from air and water pollution, the land pollution also is very evident, okay, in our community, at least in our case. So with all these problems, okay, climate change, water, land, air pollution, okay, what do we need, okay, to somehow participate in addressing these issues? Okay, the keyword, okay, for this afternoon is awareness. As teachers, lalo na sa ating part, no, our most important step is to at least make people aware, make our students aware, increase the level of their awareness on these kinds of issues, okay, for them to be able to acknowledge first and foremost na mayroong problema. Okay? Awareness always is the first step, remember, in environmental management. Okay, educating the people always is the first step, okay, the key, okay, to managing our environment properly. No? Now, papasok ngayon yung usapin ng environmental education, okay, for sustainable development. Sabi ko nga kanina, UNESCO perceives, okay, that environmental education is our way of implementing the goals of environmental protection. Okay, meaning environmental education actually is more towards protecting, enhancing the quality of the environment, okay, and making use of education as an instrument, okay, of developing, improving the quality of life, and of course, the quality of our environment. So the basic question is, what is sustainable development and how is it related to education or environmental education? Okay? We also have to answer, okay, science and technology. Ano yung role ng S&T when it comes to delivering environmental sustainability or sustainable development? Can science and technology alone deliver, no, sustainable development? So most of the time, or even most people, okay, even at present, no, meron silang thinking, meron tayong thinking na, meron namang technology na makakasolve ng problem na yan, so be it. Okay? Kunwari, meron tayong problema on solid waste, no? So ang pwede nating sabihin, no, commonly, okay lang. We scientists, no, can always create a certain technology, okay, to somehow address the problem in solid waste, no? But the thing is it something sustainable? Is it really something beneficial? Or baka naman ginagawa natin yon just to somehow parang band-aid solution to, okay, the problem, but not really addressing the root cause of the problem. So ang pinopoint out ng environmental education actually is that science and technology may help us deliver environmental sustainability, but, okay, that must be coupled with, education based on ethical and moral philosophies. So bago tayo pumunta doon, okay, let us review muna what sustainable development is. So I am actually sharing with you, okay, this simple diagram, okay, para hindi natin makalimutan ano ba yung basic concept ng sustainable development. So there are actually three elements, okay, in sustainable development, no? Nandyan ang environmental integrity, economic viability, and social justice. Okay? Sa madaling salita, tayo, no, we always have to see to it. We always have to strike a balance between and among these elements of sustainability, no? Hindi pwedeng puro economic development lang at the expense of your environment. Hindi pwedeng puro economic development lang, no, na marami namang nagkakasakit na tao because of the negative impacts of, okay, science and technology promoting economic development, no? So that actually is not what we ought to see in the future, of course. Okay? So tatandaan natin that in maintaining, achieving, no, our goal to be sustainable, isa sa alang-alang natin lagi yung tatlong elements or components na ito. I repeat, There has to be a balance between and among, okay, economic viability, environmental integrity, and social justice. Equitability should be there. No? Sinasaalang-alang natin yung welfare, okay, ng nakararami o ng tao. No? May I borrow, okay, the definition, okay, given by the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, or UNCED. Ito yung definition na sinabi nila. And we all know this definition, of course, okay, of SD. Okay, SD is that development, okay, that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations, okay, to meet their own needs. Okay, we have all the rights, okay, to make use of our resources na meron tayo ngayon. Okay, pero we don't have the right, no, na maging greedy and hindi isaalang-alang yung, no, susunod na henerasyon. In ecology, in the ecological perspective, no, we do acknowledge na ang ating environment actually has its carrying capacity, meaning it has a limitation to what it can support, no, people, no, or other elements of the physical environment, no. So merong hangganan. Okay, resources actually are finite, not infinite. So making use of that principle, then we have to definitely recognize na kailangan nating isaalang-alang. We have to make use of our resources wisely, okay, at present, no, and consider, okay, the future generations, okay, their ability, okay, to meet also their own needs. Okay, so another point is that sustainable development is economic development and vice versa. We can actually promote economic development not at the expense of the people, okay, or the social aspect of the triangle, and of course, okay, the integrity of the environment. Okay, so economic development actually can be sustainable. No? So sustainable development actually also is economic development. So as long as, ulitin ko, environmental integrity should be in place and, no, pinoprotektahan natin yung wealth.
50, tama po ba? Ilan po ang students natin sa isang class ngayon? Unless may nagbago, so I mag-graduate elementary, high school, I mag-graduate of public school. And sa section ko, we're 50. Pero noon sa City High, may mga City Highers po ba tayo, mga teachers? Meron yung mga sections na umaabot ng 70.
The national report to the Convention on Biological Diversity since early 2000, no? Merong report na ginagawa yung mga bansa, no? Sinasabit natin yan sa CBD, or Convention on Biological Diversity. That report basically contains, of course, the status, the trends, the threats to our biodiversity. No? In the Philippines, for example, in 2010, meron silang sinet na target to somehow measure, of course, or as a measure of progress. No? So may mga targets doon na nilagay, ano yung mga action plans, and of course, monitoring and evaluation, no? So in that report, they try to assess, okay, kung na-achieve ba ng Pilipinas ang progress niya based on assessing the biodiversity, no, or the level of the biodiversity, no, with respect to our forest and mountain ecosystems, with respect to our coastal marine and island ecosystems, and so on and so forth, no? That was way back 2010. Ngayon, meron na tayong 26 national report, 2018 ata yun. Sinet naman nila yung target from 2018 until 2028, if I'm not mistaken. So, my point is, okay, there are actually measures, no, na ginagamit, no, in measuring progress. And we do measure progress not only by, like GDP and so on and so forth. Okay, I believe that the progress of a nation can or should be measured also, okay, using indicators, indicators on how healthy our biodiversity is, how healthy our environment is. Okay? SDG number 12, or Sustainable Development Goal number 12, is responsible consumption and production. Ano? Yun yung pinaka-basis ng sustainability actually. Okay? And nakalink na yung mga iba, syempre, doon. Okay? This can actually be used as our operational definition of sustainability. At the end of the day, it boils down to reduction. Okay? Reducing our consumption or responsibly producing and consuming goods and services. Okay? Highlighting, of course, sabi niya dyan, affluent within and between nations. Kasi we have to acknowledge, we have to admit, na pagdating sa production and consumption, meron talagang difference yung mahirap na bansa doon sa mayayaman na bansa. And in most cases, yung mga can afford, sila yung talagang nag-benefit doon sa mga goods and services na ito, no? So, mas lalo na on their parts, no? We are actually expecting them, no? They're actually expected to at least reduce their consumption of goods and services. No, that's basically the operational definition of sustainable development. The production and consumption must be curbed to achieve even a modest degree of sustainable development. Maliit, malaking steps, lahat ng yan, taken together will definitely have a very great impact on achieving our goal towards sustainable development. Paano natin gagawin ito? Sabi ng environmental education concept, no, magagawa natin to through formal education. Dito na ngayon papasok yung environmental education for sustainable development. Before that, no, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. So, I think we are aware of these 17 sustainable development goals. So, nandyan yung responsible consumption and production. Okay? Nandyan si ending poverty, no? Zero hunger and malnutrition. Clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, no, climate action, and so on and so forth. Okay, so just to refresh ourselves with what sustainable development goals are, and there are 17 of them. Okay, so balik tayo doon sa usapin ng role ng science and technology in achieving sustainable development. Sabi ko kanina, science and technology can be used to achieve sustainable development. Pero hindi lang siya yung sole na makaka-solve ng problema nito. Hindi lang siya yung nag-iisang magsasolve ng problema na ito. To bring about this change, no, kailangan ng behavioral and attitude, change in the behavior, change in the attitude of the people towards nature and the environment. Through moral and ethical philosophies. I want to highlight the importance of educating the young minds. No, just yesterday I was brainstorming with Ma'am Melissa actually. Ang basic na tanong ko sa kanya, Ma'am Melky, what do you think? Bakit young minds? Very, very confidently, sinabi niya, kasi pag matatanda na, mayroon na silang sariling paniniwala, medyo mahirap buwagin. No? In some ways, no? Tama din si Ma'am Melky talaga. So, hindi ko sinasabi na hindi na natin i-educate yung kagaya natin medyo may edad na. Pero we would want to really focus on, no? We would want to invest, no, on educating really the younger generations. And doon na papasok ulit yung konsepto ng sustainability. No? When you educate the younger generation, meaning sila yung susunod kasi. Ibig sabihin, you're actually making your efforts more sustainable. That is very, very essential to reinforcing the environment respecting moral values. Sabi nga ni Ma'am Melky kanina, dun sa part ng introduction niya sa akin, which is very, very true, Ma'am Melky. Salamat sa pag-point out. Yung kung ano ako ngayon na as much as possible, alam mo yun, maayos, hindi makalat, and so on and so forth. Galing talaga yan sa bahay. No? Ganun kasi ako pinalaki. No? I was raised based on, environment respecting moral values. No? Regardless kung ano yung economic status ng family, we can actually always do that. Okay? And then later on, na-enhance nilang yon, okay, through education, of course. Okay? So, definitely, alam natin yung sagot dito. Can science and technology deliver sustainable development? The answer is yes, pero hindi lang siya mag-isa. Okay? We have to recognize, the role of science and technology in addressing environmental problems. Hindi natin dinideny. We're not denying that. No? Science and technology had played great roles in addressing certain environmental problems, even in the past. Kaya yun nga lang, I could still recall the statement of my former professor in college. Sabi niya sa klase namin dati, totoo nga naman, if there is an environmental problem, okay, what humans normally do is to create a technology to address the problem. Okay, but later on, naging cycle siya because that new technology that is created to address the problem, like pollution, could actually lead to forming another problem, and so on and so forth. No? Kaya nga, imbes na mag-rely lang tayo sa science and technology, baka naman, pwede tayong bumalik sa basic, somehow inculcating in our minds, the need, for us to change our behavior, to change our perspective, towards our nature and of course the environment. No? Ngayon halimbawa, may mga bansa na dati kasi economic development lang talaga ang focus through industrialization. No? Ngayon, halimbawa ang Pilipinas manghihiram ng pera sa World Bank or IMF, for example, hindi lang nila chine-check yung viability ng economy. No? Tinitignan din dapat nila kung yung economic development ba ay hindi nakakasira sa kalikasan at hindi nakakasama sa welfare ng kanilang mamamayan. Okay? So again, I am not denying the benefits of science. No? But my point is, science and technology can help the process of attaining sustainable development, but only in a limited way. Okay? Hence, the importance of environmental education. So, alam natin that natural resources in our country are in grave danger of irreparable damage. In terms of the mountain and forest ecosystems, based on the national report, during the 70s, meron pa tayong more than 70% forest cover. But because of logging, both legal and illegal, for example, sobrang nag-decline yung ating forest cover. And you have to acknowledge yung importansya talaga ng forest ecosystems natin. Sir Ace will actually emphasize that one to you later. Pero ang dami nating resources, raw materials na nanggagaling sa ating forest and mountain ecosystems talaga. Okay? Our society cannot survive if these natural resources are rendered unfit for use by its people. And again, I have to overemphasize that there is the only hope of salvaging this grave situation is making the young or the younger generation aware. There is a need for them to proactively begin to protect the environment they will inherit. Using the principles of sustainability. Dapat ma-recognize nila that there is still a need to achieve economic development, but never at the expense of the quality of the environment and the people. Okay? So, environmental education promotes the development of the knowledge, skills, understanding, values, and actions, which are required to create a sustainable world, based on the principles of protection and conservation, okay, the principles of social equality or equity, and economic sustainability. So bata pa lang talagang kailangan maintindihan nila, no? There is a need for us to alert, okay, the public, no, na mayroong problema. Okay? And one of the ways, okay, to address such problems is to focus on, not naman changing, but I could say mainstreaming environmental education sa ating curriculum. At we can actually all relate to that, no? Mamaya pag-uusapan natin yan, no? Incorporating the know-how and skills and also the imperative. Ano yung mga components ng environmental education? The essential components of EE actually are embedded also in these 5 objectives. Okay? So the essential components of EE are embedded in all these 5 objectives of environmental education. Okay, number 1 is awareness. Okay, that is to help individuals, community, social groups, governments to acquire the correct knowledge, about environmental problems, and environmental education, environmental degradation. Okay. Number 2 is knowledge. Again, that is to help, individuals, communities, social groups, even the government, to acquire the knowledge of the environment beyond their immediate environment. So hindi lang yung saklaw lang nila, no? Number 3 is attitude or attitudes. Meaning that is basically is needed to acquire a set of values for environmental protection. A set of values for environmental protection. Nangunguna dyan syempre yung respect. Di ba? It's the most important one. Okay? The 4th, skills and capacity building, just like what we are doing today, no? Skills and capacity building. That is very, very important for us to develop, the skills that are required, for making informed decisions, no? Draw unbiased inferences, and conclusions. We can only do that, no? Kung tama yung skill na meron tayo and capacitated tayo to do the task. And lastly, of course, participation. I made mention just a while ago the importance of integrated approach when it comes to achieving sustainable development, when it comes to trying to solve a certain environmental problem. No? Hindi yan masasolve ni Ma'am Melissa lang. No? Hindi lang masasolve yan ng government. Hindi yan lang masasolve ng educational sector. It must be integrated, participatory ang approach na kailangan gawin. Okay? Ano ba yung aim ng environmental education natin? The aim of environmental education really is to clearly show the economic, social, political, and ecological interdependence. Okay? Dito kasi mag-base yung ating informed decisions and actions. Mas lalo na yung mga kabataan, when it comes to environmental problems, issues, concerns, and environmental management as a whole. Okay? So, yan. It helps students understand how their decisions and actions change the environment. It also strengthens their knowledge and skills and provides them with ways they can take action, keep their environment strong and sustainable. Even in the basic education, just like in our case, sa elementary sa high school, no? Aside from us teaching concepts in our classroom, the actual classroom lecture discussion type, no? We can actually think of other ways, no, activities, no, to really mainstream environmental education in our curriculum. Okay? According to UNESCO tuloy, according to the United Nations, ang basic concept ng environmental education is that any curriculum should be based on well thought out and clearly defined concepts, na kung ano yung gusto natin ma-acquire ng ating learner. No? And that must be something interdisciplinary. Hindi lang pang biology yan. Di ba? Pwede rin yan pang social sciences, pang engineering, and so on and so on. That is interdisciplinary. Halimbawa, sa college, sa architecture, sa engineering, ngayon pinopromote na natin ang green architecture, for example. So in Quezon City, there was a parang city ordinance nila dati na if you apply for a building permit, for example, dapat in your design nag-incorporate yung sustainability concept. Parang ganun, no? I hope so soon in Baguio City, meron na rin tayong ganung, approach, okay, sa engineering and architecture na area. Sa profession, sa hotel and restaurant management, for example, no, sa industry na yon, no, importante rin na maturuan, no, and inculcate sa kanila natin yung value ng sustainable development, no? Yung mga ganung klaseng businesses. Sabi nga ni Albert Einstein, science without philosophy is just mechanics. Why? As future planners, engineers, builders, decision makers, the students shoulder special responsibility in protecting the integrity of the nature and the natural environment. Okay? And that always must be based on our moral philosophy. Okay? Alam natin na kung naka-angkla yung ating decision sa moral philosophy natin, we become rational individuals. So that is basically when we get to apply, of course, and see kung ano ba yung makabubuti, hindi lang sa ekonomiya, kundi pati sa tao at sa ating environment. Okay? The focus of environmental education is to reduce, consumption. Sabi nga natin kanina, no? So pwedeng preventive ang approach na or strategy na pwede natin gamitin dyan, or corrective. Pag nandun na yung pollution, so basically corrective na lang yun. Pero I prefer, di ba, yung approach natin ay preventive. So wala pa yung problema, foresee na natin yung impact ng ating ginagawa sa environment. So we can actually somehow limit the impacts of whatever we are doing sa ating physical environment. In the curriculum, in our curriculum, ito yung mga proposed or major areas to be mainstream in our curriculum. Yung mga usapin sa air quality, usapin sa energy resources, land use, water quality, ecosystems, and biodiversity. In the Philippine Science High School curriculum, no, pwede yan, integrate natin yan sa IS, sa grade 7 ata yun. Pwede rin makita sa Bio 3, grade 11, Bio 4, grade 12. No? But aside from those subjects or subject areas where we mainstream our environmental education approaches, pwede namang mag-create sa campus ninyo ng isang organization, student organization, thus reinforcing your classroom strategies. Okay? So again, we have to invest on sa mga usapin na ito. Okay? Sa air, conservation, ecosystems, human health, the interdisciplinarity of sustainability, water, waste and recycling, and water. Okay? So halimbawa, management of waste. Ang waste na yan, pwedeng solid waste, pwedeng chemical waste. No? So we normally see this sustainability diagram that we reuse, recycle, basically, no? Okay, to always, remind us on what to do with all these, waste, no? It's importante mag-reduce, mag-reuse, mag-recycle, okay? Because the basic principle of waste management is waste minimization, okay? Waste reduction or waste minimization. So, I'm so excited na malaman ano ba ang mga efforts nating mga teachers sa ating mga campuses para turuan o ituro sa mga bata yung sustainability concept na ito. Tinuturuan ba natin silang mag-segregate ng kanilang waste properly? Okay? Section 21 of RA 9003 basically is about segregation at source. Importante yan, no? Before anything else, before implementing segregated collection, okay, which is the role of the city or the municipality, no? Importante na segregate yung ating waste at source. Okay? So, familiar naman tayo doon sa solid waste classification. Hindi pa kasali yung chemical waste under RA 6969. Iba din yung implementing rules and regulations doon. Okay? So, anong status natin ngayon? What makes, environmental education challenging, no? Pagdating sa school or sa school setting is that ginagawa natin usually compulsory kasi siya, no? So ang perception ng mga bata, ginagawa namin to para pumasa sa subject ninyo, pero it should be beyond that. Okay, more than the grade na pwede nila makuha sa subject mo, ang importante yung value, yung moral philosophy, yung ethical philosophy na ini-impart natin sa kanila when they get home and throughout their life, no? Pwede namang hindi compulsory, pero pwede namang something na voluntary, okay, pero talagang may impact sa mga estudyante natin, no? So, syempre mandated tayo, in our curriculum talagang mandated 'yan. Pero that makes somehow to me, environmental education boring. So, we can actually develop or ways on how to really make it more exciting. Mas lalo na, if you are teaching in the elementary, mas bata yung mga natin, mga audience natin. So doon papasok yung ating creativity bilang mga guro to really participate in environmental education for sustainable development, no? Pwede rin naman sa research, for example sa PSI, pwedeng sa classroom setting, pwede rin naman sa research, no, with teachers and of course students. So in my case as a research teacher, syempre pag naghahanap ng mga topics ng mga yan, I always ask them to consider working on researches focusing on environmental protection, environmental management, no? Yun. Responsible environmental behavior became one of the tasks of environmental education. Responsible environmental behavior is defined as the whole of actions of an individual within the society that takes into account, in a conscious way, perennial and harmonious relationship between these actions and the environment. And let us take into consideration the role of the communication as a tool to really a tool, na gagamitin natin sa process na ito for us to be able to achieve our goal, no? Communication, sabi nga nila, is always the key, to achieving the goal. So in our goal of promoting environmental education for sustainable development, we need to really communicate concepts. We need to communicate what the required skills are properly to our clients, to our students. Okay? Before I end this session, it's 2:01, so meron pa akong ilang minutes, Ma'am Melky?
14 minutes po.
Before I end or conclude my discussions, let me just share with you a certain protocol, na ginagawa sa buong mundo ngayon. I'm not sure kung familiar na kayo dito, This actually is called the GLOBE protocol or the GLOBE program. Hindi po ito GLOBE na load, ha? It actually is global learning and observations to benefit the environment. So let me lead you to the website. Ano ba ang GLOBE program na to? It actually is sponsored by NASA, NOAA, DOS, and NSF, US-based itong program na ito. Pero the goal basically is to come up with a participant. So kahit sino pwede makipag-participate, students, parents, teachers, any members of the community with data pertaining to understanding the Earth in general and the global environment. Could actually participate dito sa programa na ito. Okay? So, yun yung basic idea niya. Actually, I was once a participant sa isang orientation na ginawa. Kasi in the Asia Pacific region, kasama ang Pilipinas syempre dito sa program na ito. And one of the beneficiaries na identified 2019, if I'm not mistaken, was the UST Philippine Science High School. So, nagpunta kami noon sa Palawan, no, just for this purpose. Ang ginawa noon ay tinuruan kami, binigyan kami ng tool. Ay a very simple parang tool na parang microscope siya na pwede namin gamitin, no, to collect, to identify and classify mosquitoes, Anopheles, Culex, Aedes, and so on and so forth, no, based on morphology. So basically, meron silang provide na tool to get for us to get data. Yung data na to, basically, ini-input namin doon sa app. Ang application na yan ay available also online. Pwede niyang i-download sa Google Store, tama ba? Okay. Basta may app, Google Play, sorry. Ayan, no? App Store or Google Play. So there is an application na ipapasok natin yung data natin. Because remember that the aim is to involve as many people around the world, no, as possible. Okay, to get data, and of course, no, gagamitin yan ng NASA, for example, okay, to help us further understand yung ating Earth, no, na ginagalawan, and the global environment. So if you have time, even after this meeting, no, you can actually revisit yung website na binigay ko kanina at saka itong application. Masaya naman. So basically, yung mga topics na pwedeng i-share ninyo sa estudyante dito, no? Cloud, mosquito, land cover, trees. Yung sa amin, sa training namin, sa dengue kasi, yung topic namin. So we were taught on how to, map mosquito habitats. Okay? So, paki-explore yung application na to, okay, if you have time. Kasi syempre, wala tayong time. Okay? So, conclusions? Effective policy must be implemented, okay, to curb consumption by the affluent. Sa government level ito. We need moral education to instill genuinely environment-respecting moral values in the young student society. Conventional educational methodology is no longer adequate. Okay, so we need to look for other means para maging mas exciting, mas kapanipaniwala possibly yung ating pagtuturo ng environmental education sa estudyante. Okay? Future student generation must acquire knowledge and skills, okay, in technologies and keep pace with rapid advances in practically in all areas. Okay? Lalo na sa mga usapin ng climate change, water, air, land pollution. Okay? The communication perspective opens the door to another kind of tools, okay, that we can actually utilize as educators, okay, to improve our educational practice. Okay? And lastly, minds on experience is also needed with hands-on experience. No? Magkasama lagi po yun. No? Gaya ng sinabi ni Mahatma Gandhi, education for life, education through life, and education throughout